All right, so we'll go ahead and share screen. Thank you all for giving your permission for us to go ahead and record. Drop all your beautiful faces over here so I can see you. All right, welcome everyone to our Unified Bocce Preseason Coaches webinar. We're very excited to share the information that we have with you today. Our goal is to ensure that you feel 100% comfortable and excited to go into this bocce season. A couple housekeeping items to keep in mind here. Ashley's done you a favor. She's muted you, her and Jen have muted you upon your arrival. I ask that you keep yourselves muted throughout the presentation unless you are asking a question. Then you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Just eliminates all the extra background noise that we have. You can also drop any questions that you have into the chat. We'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation, so don't feel like you have to hold that question to the very end as we go along. If you want to drop those in the chat, that would be helpful so we can make sure that we address that. Also, none of this information is top secret by any means whatsoever. The more people that know this information, the better. So please take this, share the recording that will be shared out with you, with other folks, your other coaches, administrators that would like to know what happened on this call. This is open to the public and completely good information to share with other folks. Little bit about what we plan to cover today. So welcome to the 105 folks, at least 105 Brady Bunch squares, 107 Brady Bunch squares that we have.
111, yeah.
Ooh, we've got a party going here.
They're still coming in.
Welcome to all of you that have joined us. We're very excited to have this. So this is the second webinar that we've had on this topic that has had over 100 participants. So we'll go over who we have on our UCS staff, the most important people that you will have throughout your entire season and throughout the year. What's new for this year, for 2022, 2023. We'll go over some rule reminders. We'll touch base on some dates and deadlines, talk a little bit about championships. We have a few other additional items that we'd like to share with you, and we'll go over any questions that you have as well. So here is our UCS staff. My name is Lauren Salter. I'm the UCS director. I apologize that I didn't start out with that at the beginning of the presentation. So all alongside a couple of my colleagues, Jennifer Trask and Ashley Herr is helping as well. We'll take you through this presentation today. So in our Eastern staff, we have Tracy Huddleston, who is new. You'll see these folks highlighted in yellow are brand new folks that we have on board this year. May not be brand new to Special Olympics, but are brand new to staff. So Tracy Huddleston covers our Northeast Pennsylvania area. Ashley Herr covers Southeast Pennsylvania. Shannon Burt covers our high schools in Philadelphia and Bucks County. We have Lizbeth that's covering Philadelphia middle and elementary schools. Jennifer that is covering North Central Pennsylvania. Megan, new to South Central Pennsylvania. We've got Jan Holt in the greater Harrisburg area, Eric Jankowski and Stephanie Taylor that are in the western side of the state. Eric covers Allegheny County and Steph is covering southwestern PA. So those are all the fine folks that we have, and mention that we have a lot of attendees on this call. It's very exciting to share of just how much participation we have. So we have over 200 competitive bocce schools this year. So if you take into account all those folks that are coming on as first year schools that have had bocce and are adding bocce as a second sport, we are very possibly going to have over 300 bocce teams this year, which is extremely exciting to share. So to manage all that phenomenal growth that comes along with 106 new schools in one school year, we've hired these fine folks that you see highlighted in yellow to help manage that capacity and provide you with the best support humanly possible. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what is new for this upcoming year. So we'll talk about a couple of specific rule changes. A lot of what we've done this year is add some clarifications to existing rules. So there's a little bit more clarity there for you, not so much interpretation, but just making sure that things are a little bit more crystal than what they had previously been. And then we'll target those rule changes. So a couple things to keep in mind going into this year. One, don't think you have to take every note on each of these slides. One, recorded. Two, we'll give you the slide deck. And three, it's also going to be in your coach's guidebook that you will receive. So you'll be able to access this information in a number of different ways. So the first thing we have on here is forfeits. Should a team have to forfeit, the score for that game will be 8-0 in favor of the non-forfeiting team. Okay. Teams with 8 team members, so 4 athletes and 4 partners, should not have to rotate. So there shouldn't be, if you have a full team, you're able to put 2 athletes and 2 partners at each end of your court. Those folks do not need to move, because then they are rolling more than 2 frames in a row, right? So we don't want any of that happening. During play, all the bocce balls should remain in their respective corners of the service box until a player is entering that service box. Right? So this came from a little bit of clarity of thinking that if a player touched the ball before they entered the box, that there was some sort of penalty. That is not the case. Those bocce balls should stay in the corners so the officials can keep track of where they are at in play. If someone's coming in and they pick it up before they step in, they're fine. That's not a penalty at all. What we don't want to see is that those bocce balls float outside of the box. Nobody should be holding them on the side. Like I said, we need to keep those in that service box area so we can keep track of where we're at in play and know exactly where those things are. Any ball that leaves the court is going to be ruled a dead ball. If that happens, that ball will stay outside the court. It's not going to be used again during that frame. We'll take it down the other end of the court and it'll be used for the next frame. Okay. If there is a ramp assistant that is on your team, if someone's using a ramp, the person or teammate that's assisting that individual, they must turn their back to the bocce balls that are in contention. And they ask that person that is utilizing the ramp for the instruction of how to use it. So as they're coming in, we want the person that's utilizing the ramp to be the one that dictates where does that ramp go, because they're the one that's in charge of placing it, okay? Distance estimates or any other assistance on judgment is not going to be permitted in that case. So we want that person that's playing that ball to make their own judgment. So we do have accommodations for individuals that have hearing or visual impairments. Those are completely in play and are fine to do. We want everybody to be on the same playing field. So those adaptations are 100% okay. A player is not allowed to step outside the court once he or she has entered it. The player must roll before leaving the service box. So they can't step in, step out, and then step back in to roll the ball. So if somebody wants to get one more tidbit of information, they can't step out. That ball's going to be called dead. Okay, so any strategy that needs to happen prior to that individual stepping into the court. Can't step back out. For all you coaches that get a little bit anxious and don't really like to sit in that coach's chair and feel the need to wander, you can stand. Okay, so we'll give you that, but you should be staying. You need to stay in that coach's chair area. So feel free to stand. What we don't want to see you do is floating over towards your team. So you do need to remain in that coach chair area. Coaches may provide a generic prompt such as roll the ball. In that case, that is not a coaching strategy. We want to keep the game moving. So if a partner or a coach says roll the ball, they're not going to be penalized for that at all. There's no strategy involved with that. Where you're going to be called for coaching is roll the ball left, roll the ball right, roll it hard, Spock this. When you add strategy to that, it's no longer a prompt. Now it's coaching. Okay. So, and this goes along with our next point here. So a warning will be given at the beginning of a match to not talk to the player in the box. Any violation will result in a dead ball. And this pertains to not only the folks on the sideline, so our teammates talking to people that are in the box, but also the coaches and also the spectators. So please talk to your parents, let them know what that rule is. They can definitely cheer. We want cheering. We want the cheerleaders. That is something that we have seen We want cheering to happen, but we don't want coaching while people are in the box. So they should not be yelling at Johnny, hit that ball up in this corner. Tell them to keep that inside as much as humanly possible. All right, so we need to cut back on that a little bit. One warning to both teams at the beginning of the match. That will be automatic, okay? And now I will send it over to Jen to go over some reminders that we have for you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Let's go over the reminders. Okay, so student athlete requirements. Remember that students who are over the age of 21 and they have opted in for an additional year of high school, such as they did last year with the pandemic, they are able to participate to the age of 22. Just remember they must be receiving services from the high school. Okay, so students over the age of 21 can compete now till 22, but they must be receiving services from the high school. And as always, students active in another winter sport, they are not eligible. And by students, we are referring to the athletes and the partners. They may only participate in one winter sport. To participate in Bocce and to be eligible for competitions, they must complete the PIAA athlete paperwork, again, partners and athletes, and they should also have a parent or guardian complete the SOPA participation waiver. There is a link to a Google Doc for it. If you have parents who need it in a paper format, please let your liaison know and they will be able to provide it for you. But those are two requirements for both athletes as well as partners. So a unified indoor bocce team, remember the roster has to be a minimum of 6. That's 3 athletes and 3 partners. 3 athletes who are Special Olympic eligible, as well as 3 students without an intellectual disability. And then you can have a maximum of 8 on your team. Okay? Your team also will include no substitutes or alternates. They are not allowed. A normal bocce team has 4 people on it. We're allowing 8. So there are your 2 athletes and 2 partners who can be your substitutes or alternates. The nice thing about our bocce program is that all participants on the team do get to play every game. So you may have all 8 of your players on the court. Winter season interscholastic sports, again, cannot participate in the unified indoor bocce team, but we will take those fall and spring varsity athletes who do not participate in a PIAA sport during the winter. On game day, we have a different roster lineup. On game day, you must have 2 athletes and 2 partners. Okay, remember the athletes are those who are an intellectual disability. The partners are those without an intellectual disability. So on game day, you must have 2 athletes, 2 partners, and you must have your intact team with no substitutions or alternates. Okay, so if you have 2 teams, each athlete was assigned to the team on their roster that's due on December 5th. At that time, those athletes are required to remain on that team and they may not move from one team to the other. If you have 3 athletes and 5 partners, or maybe vice versa, there is a rotation guide. If you might have 6 players and not 8 players, there is a rotation guide. So anything less than 4 athletes and 4 partners, you will need to rotate your players. We have a video all about that will be coming out in the next week or so. And you will also be able to find that information in the Bocce Coaches Resource Guide, which we will be sending you a hard copy next week. So you will receive a hard copy in the mail, and we will let you know as soon as it is up on our SOPA website so that you could see a copy of it there also. If you have players who need a one-on-one or a paraprofessional, that is okay. Please make sure you identify those athletes on your preseason roster. You will receive your preseason roster in the next couple of days from your liaison, but please make sure you make a note of the one-on-one. You will see that we will add an extra chair to the area that the athletes sit on, and that chair is for that paraprofessional or their one-on-one. They do not have to sit in the bleachers and try to run up and help. They may sit with the athletes right next to the athlete, and they will also be able to go from one end to the other. Okay, so they'll transition from one end of the court to the other between the frames with the athlete. They do not have to stay at one end of the court. The only thing we ask that there is no coaching by this individual, whether it is for the team or for that athlete. They are there strictly for emotional support or physical support as needed. And if they do get caught coaching, that will be a dead ball, just like it is for any spectator or for any coach or any of the team members coaching when the athlete is in the box. Managing the pace of play, this was put into place last year. We're trying to give the athletes and partners enough time to play the game. Remember, it's 16 points or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. So to keep this game moving, the official will give the original prompt and they will say something such as red in and green roll, or green in, red roll. They will then count 10 seconds. And if the athlete or partner has not gotten into the service box, they will give a reminder. Again, they will say red in, green roll. Okay. After another 10 seconds goes by, if the participant is still not in the service area, the official will announce, I will start a 10-second countdown. They will start to count and they will move their hands such as a basketball official does, counting 1, 2, 3 with their fingers. And they may also be saying it out loud. At the end of those 10 seconds, if the player is not in the service area and the ball is not rolled, it will be considered a dead ball. The ball will be removed from the court and will not be available to play until the next frame. Please note that we do understand it may take a little longer to get an athlete in who is in a wheelchair or has a visual or hearing impairment. We get that. The official will be watching, and if there is no motion to get that athlete into the court, they will continue with the prompts. Okay, but we will take that into account as we are managing the pace of play. Okay, timeouts, such as last year, we had started with our timeouts. So each team is permitted to have one 60-second timeout. And of course, it is made by placing one hand over the other, as you see people do this for all other sporting events. The coach is the one who asks for the timeout. Each coach again has one timeout. The clock will stop for 60 seconds for that timeout. Remember, your team must be in possession of the ball. Okay, if you are in possession of the ball, you can call the timeout. This can take place during any time of the game, okay, from the first minute to the last. But once the official announces the timeout, then the coach will go to the players, not the players coming to the coach. Okay, the coach will go to the players. They may step and go through the court. Please be careful if you step into the court, not to knock any of the balls in contention out of the way. So athletes should be come down the sides of the courts so that all of your athletes are at one end to speak with the coach. And remember, if Coach A calls the timeout for the team, and now Coach B is going to call a timeout, you both have the timeout. So both coaches may talk to their athletes regardless of who calls the timeout. Okay. Back to our attire, some things to keep in mind. These are legal pants that you're seeing. You're seeing solid leggings, you're seeing sweatpants, solid sweatpants, and also dress pants. Okay, these are considered your appropriate pants. Remember that the entire team must be wearing the same color pants. So if one athlete is in tan everybody on the team must be wearing tan pants also. If they are in black, same thing. If they are in navy blue, the same thing. Okay. Now, what's not allowed in pants are the following. It's denim pants. It's pants with rips in them. Okay. Remember denim pants, there's multiple colors in denim pants. So every color is illegal in denim pants. And by denim pants, we are referring to jeans. There should be no rips and tears. Cargo pants are not available, are not legal. Pants other than black, navy blue, khaki are not legal unless the entire team is wearing the same color pair of pants. Okay. We're also looking here at the leggings that have cuts in them, so you can kind of see through the area. Also, floral or printed colorful leggings are not legal. Okay, so those are what is not legal. Then we're going to move on to footwear. So in footwear, sneakers are the approved shoe for bocce. They can be any color. We identify them as an athletic sneaker, or what you call a tennis. Some people call tennis shoes. Velcro is allowed for those who need it. The slip-on sneakers there that are officially sneakers are legal. They must have sides that come up over their ankles. And a tied shoe, of course, is always legal in the sneaker line. What's not legal are slip-on shoes, such as those Vans or Toms that the foot can easily slip out of. Flip-flops, sandals, boots are not legal. We do know that it does sometimes rain or snow the day of a meet, and someone might come to school in a pair of boots, but those boots must be changed out of in order for them to participate. So they will need to get a pair of sneakers on. So please remind your athletes and partners that if they do travel to school in boots, they must take them off and make sure that they are wearing the appropriate footwear, which are sneakers. Okay. Some things to remember too, that we will be giving you a link to order uniforms. You will see it in the next week or so. So please keep your eyes open as soon as the link comes out. If you are ordering your shirts with us, you need to order immediately. So while you are gathering your team members, make sure you are gathering their shirt sizes so that you'll be able to get them the appropriate shirt, and everyone will be in their matching shirt, which is legal. Okay. There is a section in the resource guide. If you could go back one more, Lauren, before you take off there. There is a supporting material area. We started this last year. In that supporting area, you will see information on ramps and how to build one certain type of ramp. Remember, we do not provide ramps. It's up to your school too. So we'll give you a couple pictures of different ramps that we have seen. And there's one that we have the instructions for building. There is the player rotation guide. And then we also do have a link to a video for the rotations if you would like to watch the video. We have a new officials video that will be available most likely at the end of next week. We just recorded it since there are so many updates and changes. We want to make sure we had the most recent information in it. That link will be available to you soon. Obviously, the Spectator's Guide to Bocce, a document that you can copy and hand out to parents and hand out to spectators on the day of the event. Then you will see the game day score sheets as well as the lineup card. So make sure you check out that supported materials area so you have all the forms and video links necessary for the season. All right, back to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, so let's go over some dates and deadlines that will be coming up here. All right, so mark your calendars. It's coming up fast and furious. The first day of official practices can begin is November 18th. So this is directly in line with PIAA's winter season as well. Doesn't mean you have to start on that Friday. It means you can start on that Friday. This one will officially open our season. Friday, December 5th is when your team rosters are due. That's when they are locked in place. They cannot be switched from per team to team. That gives you a week prior to competitions for our staff to start putting together, game sheets and prepping for the competition that can begin in the following week. So that takes a little bit of time. We want to make sure we have everything in place there. December 12th, our league play officially begins. That will run until February 10th. On February 1st is when your LOI championship advancement paperwork will be due. So LOI means letter of intent. That lets us know that is your school's letter that says, yes, we want to move on beyond league championships, or nope, not for us. We're good to go getting to leagues, and that is it. So important for us to have that for our advancement. Letter of intent is, we'll get into it a little bit later, it's an all or nothing thing. So if you want to advance to regionals and states, it's not one or the other, it's both that you're opting into. So we're not taking slots from folks that want to move on. Okay. February 20th through March 3rd are our league championship days. March 6th through the 10th are regional championships. These were a big hit last year. We all know that COVID kind of threw us for a curve. So those one-day regional events that brings our league championship winners together will be in place again. And then we are certainly excited to say that we are able to go ahead and at this time host a state championship in Hershey again on March 22nd, 23rd, right? We'll talk a little bit about state championships a little bit further in this presentation in the next couple of slides. But definitely things to keep in mind here. Jen, go ahead.
We do have a mistake on December 5th, I believe, is actually a Monday and not a Friday.
Regardless, December 5th, whatever day of the week it falls on, y'all, that's the day we need your rosters locked in. Thanks, Jen. So let's talk a little bit about postseason advancement. I kind of foreshadowed a little bit of this discussion here to give you a heads up on what's coming up here. So here is what postseason advancement is going to look like, our levels of postseason this year. So we'll have league championships, regional championships, and state championships that'll happen this year. So what we are envisioning this year, I talked about a little bit earlier, we've had massive growth in the last year, and this year we've had 44 brand new schools take up Bocce in addition to the folks that already had it. We're looking at approximately 300 Bocce teams this year. So every school can have up to 2 teams that they can fully roster there. So postseason will look a little bit different than it has in the past. So we will be doing league championships for the top teams within each league. So it's not an everybody qualifies like they have in the past, right? So what we have done in the past is, for our new folks that may be joining us today, is there might have been a large championship that happened, or there was these smaller divisional championships that led up to a league championship. And right now we want to be a little bit more in line with Piedmont by doing it something similar to it, and also make sure that we're not just offering quantity of these smaller championship events, but also quality, right? So being able to do that, we'll host a league championship for those top teams in that league. We will be following the results of each individual match. So it will be imperative for folks that are hosting to get that paperwork back to our UCS staff so we can accurately track what those results are for each of those matches. What will be coming down the pipeline for information for you is exactly how we are going to track wins and losses and the criteria for who qualifies for league championships. So for transparency, I'm in discussions with a number of athletic directors and coaches giving input on what the best way to do that is, taking feedback from schools that are bigger in size, smaller in size, and have different viewpoints to make sure that we get a good consensus on the fairest way to do that. So that will be coming your way prior to the start of the season. So before November 18th, you'll know what the criteria is of how we are going to determine what are those best teams in each of the leagues. Those will be one-day events. Those winners from those league championships will filter up to the regional competitions that will be hosted across the state. we will have those competition winners move on to state championships. Ultimately, at that state level competition, we will have 8 teams. So over this course of this season, we are filtering 300-ish teams down to 8 to get those top teams at Hershey. That will be an overnight experience that we will have. That will happen that day. So please take that into consideration as you're thinking about, hey, who you're putting on teams, who's best for travel. Is this a thing that would be most appropriate for your teams? Is this definitely what you want to do? Is it good for one team, not the other team? So take all that into consideration, but wanted to give you a preview of what postseason is going to look like this year. So when we get down to PIAA championships, we will have an in-depth webinar. So I'm going to give you some higher level stuff just to take into consideration as you're thinking about if y'all want to move on to state levels or not. So as far as states go, what we do from SOPA is we provide you all your competition management, coordination, and logistical support. So we will set all of that up. We will manage dinner, activities, housing in Hershey. So we will do that. We will pay for the housing. We will pay for the meals there when folks come in on March 22nd. March 23rd, we'll take care of the breakfast that's at the hotels. We'll take care of lunch. We'll manage competition opening ceremonies and then ultimately awards ceremonies at the end there. What we ask from schools, just to take into consideration, is the transportation. So y'all would be in charge of getting people to and from Hershey and roundabout while you're there, right? We must have 2 coaches. We require a ratio of 4 to 1. That is per our organizational policy. Teams must have a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 8 team members on that roster to attend. And obviously all athletes must be dressed in proper uniform to play, right? So to be on that giant center floor, we want everybody to look the part and be in the proper uniforms to compete. Some additional information. Thanks for hanging as we go through this webinar here. Giving you a lot of info. So as we are going through, so we've talked about state level competition. Part of getting ready for all of that is the practices, right? That are very important in getting our folks ready to go. And as we're going through this, one of the things that we would like to take a focus on as well is overall health of our participants. As a sport organization, health and fitness is very important to us. And there have been a number of studies that have come out, and some of these are summarized here on this slide, that we're seeing some pretty severe health disparities among our athletes. Some of these are pretty glaring. So if you look at the 6.5 million individuals that have ID across the United States, their life expectancy just by the diagnosis of having an intellectual disability is reduced by an average of 20 years. Just by that statistic alone. That's the one that jumps out to me a lot. We also know that obesity is an issue across our country, broad spectrum, right? A lot of folks battle with that. An individual with ID, twice as likely to be obese. They're twice as likely to have cardiovascular disease or asthma, 5 times as likely to have diabetes. These are things that we're trying to move the needle on. And it's not something that we're going to snap our fingers and it's automatically going to change. But it's something that we would like to work with you all. We all know, I don't know about you, but I haven't ever thought of Bocce as the most physically intensive sport I've ever participated in. Maybe one of the most fun sports I've ever participated in, but not the most physically active. So as a piece of this, as you're going through your training, what we'd like you to do is try to plug in some fitness components into your practice. One, add some excitement, get some people moving. You're teaching them Bocce, you're teaching them teamwork, but you're also teaching them some skills that will enable them to produce good habits to take with them beyond that practice, things that they can do at home, right? So what we want to do is, hey, you've got a team on the court, or you've got a couple folks on the court, and every time that play ends up at the opposite end, we've got to do 5 jumping jacks and jog down there. So there's small things that we can do to incorporate in the practices to develop some better healthy habits. What we want to do from SOPA also is to provide you, not just tell you, hey, incorporate fitness into your practices, but also give you some resources and be able to do that. So if you've been around, you may have one of these already, but we have some fitness kits that come in a backpack and have some fitness gear in it, along with some how-to flip cards that show a variety of exercises that you can do to incorporate into your practices. So in those fitness kits, we have jump ropes, poly spots, agility hoops, resistance bands, and flip cards with instructions on how to breaking down different exercises to keep those practices fun and exciting. So in those kits, you have those materials. We have a request form. So you're like, hey, Lauren, that sounds great. How do I get one? Well, if you already have one, that's awesome. If you'd like to have another one, or if you don't have one yet, what I'd like you to do is you can click on this form link, and I'll drop it into the chat. This was very popular on the last webinar, but to submit a request for a kit. And I'll be reviewing those on a regular basis and start shipping those kits out. There is a maximum of 2 kits per school. So please just keep that in mind. We want to make sure that anybody that's interested is able to at least get one, so everybody has the same opportunity. If you have received 2 kits in the past, I ask that you defer and let somebody else get some kits if you already have some. So that is available. Those will begin going out soon. Those are some things that we have on hand already. We will continue to send them out till we do not have any left.
All right, and last but not least, we have a coaches quiz coming up. This Friday, we will send you a link, and you need to take your quiz, whether you are the head coach, assistant coach, or co-coach, you need to take the quiz by December 1st. So you might have, if you've already seen your your November monthly newsletter, you will see that there is a link available in that newsletter. The link will open tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So the quiz will be available then. Remember, you must pass 22 out of the 26 questions. Okay. And if you notice on the side, there is a cute little picture that tells you there is no crying in bocce. Okay, you can see the cursor pointing to it. You just might need to know that, hint, hint. So make sure you are paying attention to that. One thing before we go, I did want to remind you, if you do have any issues with the bocce balls, if they do link, those bocce balls are made of a non-toxic substance. Just wash your hands with soap and water, the floor with soap and water. And then your next step is to contact your SOPA liaison, that list that Lauren showed you in the beginning, and we will get a bocce ball overnighted to you to replace in your set. So please make sure you are checking your equipment and letting your liaison know if you are in need of anything to be replaced. So with that, we're going to head open to the questions. I know I saw a ton of questions come through. Ashley, want to share with us what you saw?
Yes. A
Before you get
couple.
started,
Oh,
Ashley,
yep. Go for it.
just for the sake of this recording, I'm going to go ahead and stop this
Nice.
recording, and then anything that is like a really common question, we'll plug them into an email, so the folks that may not be on this are still getting that information for those common questions that we have.
Okay, and while Lauren is